What if I told you that America's greatest betrayal wasn't just about one man, but about a British spy who seduced a war hero's wife and turned her into the mastermind behind the most shocking treason in American history? Tonight, I'm going to reveal the untold story of Peggy Shippen Arnold, the 18-year-old socialite who played a deadly game of seduction and espionage that nearly handed the entire United States back to the British Empire. This isn't just another history lesson. This is the story of how one woman's betrayal almost erased America from the map forever. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why some secrets were buried for over 200 years. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear will change everything you thought you knew about the American Revolution. But first, let me paint you a picture of Philadelphia, 1778. The city was under British occupation, and while most Americans were struggling through a brutal war, one family was living like royalty. The Shippen family owned one of the most luxurious mansions in the city, complete with crystal chandeliers, imported silk wallpapers, and servants attending to their every need. And at the center of it all was 18-year-old Margaret Shippen, or Peggy, as everyone called her. Picture this: blonde hair, piercing blue eyes, and a smile that could make grown men forget their own names. She wore the finest French dresses, attended exclusive parties with British officers, and had more suitors than she knew what to do with. While American soldiers were freezing at Valley Forge, Peggy was dancing at lavish balls, flirting with enemy officers, and living a life of absolute luxury. She was everything a Philadelphia socialite should be: charming, beautiful, and completely untouchable. Little did anyone know, this 18-year-old socialite was about to change the course of American history. But here's where the story gets interesting, and trust me, you're not going to believe what I'm about to tell you next. Because the real shock comes when you discover who was pulling her strings. His name was Major John Andre, and he wasn't just any British officer. This man was the head of British intelligence in America, charming, sophisticated, and absolutely ruthless. At just 28 years old, Andre had already orchestrated some of the most successful spy operations of the war. When he walked into that Philadelphia ballroom in late 1778, every woman in the room noticed him. But Andre only had eyes for one person: Peggy Shippen. What started as innocent flirtation at parties quickly became something much more dangerous. Andre would slip Peggy coded messages hidden inside sheet music. They would meet secretly in her family's garden, where he taught her the art of invisible ink and cipher codes. But this wasn't just a wartime romance. Andre was recruiting Peggy as a British spy, and she was eager to learn. Their correspondence reveals a shocking truth. Peggy wasn't just infatuated with Andre, she was completely committed to the British cause. In one letter, she wrote, quote, "I would do anything to see the rebels crushed and order restored to America," unquote. Andre trained her to identify American military movements, to gather intelligence from patriot families, and most importantly, to use her feminine charms to extract secrets from unsuspecting men. What happened next will make your blood boil, because in 1779, Peggy set her sights on the most valuable target Andre could have imagined: a decorated American war hero who had access to the highest levels of military intelligence. Wait until you hear what she convinced her husband to do. Benedict Arnold was everything Peggy needed him to be: a genuine American war hero with a massive ego and even bigger debts. Arnold had fought bravely at Saratoga, suffered crippling leg wounds for his country, and earned George Washington's personal trust. But by 1779, he was bitter, broke, and convinced that America didn't appreciate his sacrifices. Enter Peggy Shippen. She didn't just seduce Arnold, she studied him like a chess master studies her opponent. She discovered his financial problems and whispered about how the British rewarded their allies with gold and land. She massaged his wounded pride, telling him he deserved so much more than what the ungrateful colonists had given him. Within months of their marriage, Peggy had Arnold eating out of her hand. But here's the truly diabolical part. She convinced him that betraying America wasn't treason, it was justice. The plan they hatched was breathtakingly audacious. Arnold would use his influence to get command of West Point, the most strategically important fortress in America. This wasn't just any military base. West Point controlled the Hudson River, and whoever controlled the Hudson controlled the entire war. Arnold would weaken the fort's defenses, then hand it over to the British for £20,000 worth over $4 million today. Peggy coordinated everything through her secret correspondence with André. She told Arnold exactly when to make his move, how to communicate with British forces, and even what excuses to give Washington. The betrayal was so perfect, so calculated, that even today historians argue about who was really in control, the famous general or his 18-year-old wife. But then something happened that no one expected. On September 23, 1780, everything fell apart in the most dramatic way possible. A young American militiaman named John Paulding was patrolling near Tarrytown when he spotted a suspicious rider trying to cross into British territory. The man claimed to be a merchant, but something didn't feel right. When they searched him, they found documents hidden in his boot detailed plans of West Point's defenses, written in Benedict Arnold's own handwriting. The rider was Major John André, traveling in disguise to finalize the treasonous deal. Within hours, the entire conspiracy unraveled. Arnold received word that André had been captured just minutes before American soldiers arrived to arrest him. In a panic, he jumped on his horse, rode to the Hudson River, and escaped to a British warship by mere minutes. André wasn't so lucky. Despite his charm and desperate pleas, he was sentenced to death as a spy. Even British officers respected him so much they requested he be shot like a soldier rather than hanged like a common criminal. The request was denied. André was executed on October 2, 1780. But here's where Peggy's true genius revealed itself. While her husband fled and her lover faced the gallows, she put on the performance of her lifetime. When American officers arrived to question her, they found her in her bedroom, seemingly in the middle of a complete mental breakdown. She was screaming, crying, claiming she had no idea what her husband had been planning. She told them she was just a naive young woman who had been manipulated by men she trusted. She even claimed to see visions and begged the officers to protect her from imaginary threats. Her performance was so convincing that she fooled even George Washington himself. The future president wrote that he felt genuine pity for, quote, the unhappy lady who seems to be as much the victim as anyone, unquote. Not only did Washington believe her act, he personally ensured her safe passage to British-controlled New York, where she reunited with her traitorous husband. So what happened to Peggy Shippen Arnold after she escaped justice? She and Benedict lived comfortably in London on British pensions, where she was celebrated as a hero by British society. She had 5 children, hosted elegant dinner parties, and lived the luxurious lifestyle she had always craved. But here's the most chilling part: documents discovered centuries later proved that Peggy had been lying all along. British intelligence records show she was receiving payments as a spy even before she married Arnold. She wasn't manipulated by her husband, she was the one doing the manipulating. In fact, some historians now believe that Peggy Shippen Arnold was the true mastermind behind the entire plot. She identified Arnold as the perfect target. She orchestrated their marriage, and she coordinated every detail of the betrayal with her lover John André. If their plan had succeeded, the British would have captured West Point, split the colonies in half, and likely won the Revolutionary War. America as we know it might never have existed. Think about that for a moment. One 18-year-old woman came within minutes of erasing the United States from history. She used her beauty, her intelligence, and her complete lack of conscience to nearly destroy everything the Founding Fathers were fighting for. And she almost got away with it. So next time someone tells you that behind every great man is a great woman, remember Peggy Shippen Arnold. Sometimes that woman has her own agenda. And sometimes that agenda is more dangerous than anything you could possibly imagine. Thanks for watching. And remember, history is never as simple as they taught you in school.